My name is Arthur Murphy, and I'm the coordinator of the Afro American Newspapers Archives and Research Center project. What you're about to see is, well, a piece of tape about the watershed of the project. In April 1988, we moved several tons of items from the basements and attics of the Afro American newspapers to a temporary site on the campus of Bowie State University. There were two other people involved in that project. Two people who, well, have really committed their life and their soul and their hearts and time to this project. And one of the people is Fred Stilo, Dr. Fred Stilo, who's the senior archivist to the project, and Professor Carrie Beth Cryer, who is the junior archivist to the project. And Fred, you got involved?
I've been involved since October of 1987, and then we were fortunate to get Carrie Beth to come on board in December of 1987. I guess when we were talking, I wanted to ask Beth about what her first images when she came into the archives and walked into this massive sort of morgue area.
I mean, there was a big room on the second floor of the Afro where most of the items were.
The morgue.
Tell me about it.
The morgue. It was, I was dazed when I went in because I knew history was in the room, but for some reason or another the room seemed to have stood still. Boxes and file cabinets and newspapers and all these kinds of things were just filling the floors, and it was...
How many file cabinets?
I was overwhelmed.
How many?
72.
72 in total?
72 file cabinets.
Did you, I mean, Fred, you were more interested in the attic, I think.
Well, the attic is the attic and also the basement and the other areas. I can remember Beth's face when I took her upstairs. And we have a problem, and it was a huge problem of preservation, of trying to save this material. Material was being threatened. The attic, obviously, was not air-conditioned. There were no climate control areas.
No.
And when I took Beth upstairs and we went through the rat droppings, when you get up to see materials, letters from everyone from W.E.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington on, sitting in the most outrageous conditions that I'd ever seen. I've been in archives for a number of years, and Beth's face when she went upstairs and realized after I roped her into this project that maybe archives weren't the cleanest work around.
I think the fleas got to me.
Yes, and also I had to work with a kerchief over my face. I mean, the dust was that stifling.
What we're talking about really is about 100 years worth of Afro-American history that we stumbled on to. I mean, everybody had known that these archives were there, but nobody had the ability, quite frankly, to do anything with it. And I guess with this team, we were able to put together the money and the resources and the talent to move this stuff to Bowie. And by the way, the film, the first piece of tape that you're going to see is about moving the archives from Baltimore to its temporary resting place at Bowie State University, and it was paid for by John Schisler of C&P Telephone Company, and they came into the breach and just saved us. And now what we've got on our hands is a gold mine of items that have to be saved.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we really owe debt of thanks to Mr. Schisler and the Maryland National Banks, and also to Courtney Funn and the people at the Thurgood Marshall Library at Bowie, because without having a solid climate control area, I can't see of any way that we could have preserved the papers. They were on edge. It was so close. We could have lost an unbelievable treasure. And because of their intercession, and we hope the intercession of other people, we might be able to save one of the most significant groupings of Afro-American patrimony that still is extant. As Beth can tell you, as a fairly well-known photographer, the problem of documenting black history in this country is immense. People didn't think that things of the African American were that significant, were that important. The people who did think they were important, who really went and helped to create a legacy, were the newspapers, the churches, but especially the newspapers. It was their job to keep track of the community. You won't find this type of material roaming around in the major libraries or the major universities before the late 70s, I guess even into the 60s, when people started to get aware that black is beautiful. But now we have something that was collected at the time and not just sort of after the fact.
The three of us could probably sit here and talk to you for at least another hour, but you got to see this. You've really got to see this piece of footage, because I guess it was the beginning for us. It was the beginning of the trip. It was the beginning of our understanding what our responsibility was. And
if you don't mind me adding just one piece. I'm sorry. One of the other reasons why the collection is so important is because we have over 1 million photographs. And they must be preserved, and they must be duplicated and microfilmed, and whatever other way we can get it to the public. And I think that's extremely important, because we've had photographers for the Afro American newspapers for a long time photographing a lot of important events, and not just in Baltimore, but also the other outlets too. So I think that's really important.
After you see the video, there's another video that follows it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Enjoy it.
Thank you, and we need you.
Hold on. Is that an old press? Wipe this on, hold on.
We got one more loading.
One more load? How many? One more?
Yeah. 37, it was the largest press of its kind.
What? I'm sorry, it's making nauseating.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
We bought it in 1937. And I have to find out a way to get rid of it. This weighs about 12 pounds. We cook.
Where's the press now?
We buy purchase services from other printing companies. We were the only black newspaper in the country that had its own press.
That's great. This is great. I love this stuff, don't you?
It's overwhelming.
No, there is no limit.
I don't think so. I think this is the closest we're going to get. Whoops. Okay. This is the weekly. New Jersey Afro American is weekly.
Oh, so these aren't all Baltimore Afro?
No, different papers.
Who did? The
Afro.
Your family had 8 papers? Mm-hmm. How many do they have now?
Let's see, there's the National, Baltimore, 5 now.
So there are 5 Afro-American newspapers in...
5 different papers.
Okay, tell me where they are again.
Richmond Afro-American, Washington Afro-American,
D.C.?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Baltimore Afro-American,
Right.
National.
Just a national paper?
Right.
Four.
Four, okay, four.
This is great.
We just closed New Jersey.
These are the actual. These are the actual pieces of paper.
Only ones. Only ones left.
$8 a month for a piano. $3.60 for a quart of Gallagher and Burton.
Yes.
God, reupholster sofa for $49. Now it's $1,000.
The real discoveries, though, were the correspondence files.
And where's some of those? Do you have any you can show me?
Sure. Let me get Carrie Beth to break some of those out.
Okay.
Or you want, let's go upstairs.
The National Endowment for the Humanities heard about the discovery and gave you what?
They gave us $16,000, and they promised us another $330,000
To restore and go through.
to talk
So
library.
should say Blue State for 3 years and then go to Morgan permanently, right? So the Murphy Museum?
No, the Afro American Newspaper Archives and Research Center.
Afro-American.
Newspapers, archives, and research center. And the chairman is
Smart.
He's a good friend.
Good guy, too.
He's been a friend of the press company.
Full stop.
Just a little circle.
Yeah, archivist.
Archivist. It's a new word in there.
A-R-I-V-I-S-T.
Handler of archivists.
Who's the archivist? Is this stuff going to go right now? Where are you going to put it there? Let's just look at that one. Can I have one?
Yes, you may.
I asked her before.
Yes, you may open.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. Here,
Oh, Sophie Carmichael. That's
let's have some more. Just hand me some more.
okay.
This is City Hall.
Actually, the frame. There's some framed.
Desk and call those things up on your computer terminal.
Oh, there's Sugar Ray Leonard. Is that not Sugar Ray Leonard?
Yep.
Well, this ain't that old.
Okay, that's in there. Those are little. There are a little.
See, we got things that the materials in the file box go from 1892 to December 31st, 1969.
Say that again.
Or is it 79, Carrie?
You know Sugar Ray.
79.
79.
Okay, we're going to take a couple more shots and we'll do a few interviews.
Something like
This
this.
is great.
This is the old suggestion box.
Oh, this is great. Get Billy Murphy off a squirrel. I can't believe that's in there.
We've got
Oh my-
silver,
What is it?
Oh, wow.
and we also have a silver cup
This is great.
that was from the NAACP to Carl Murphy. I think that's in another one of these yellow.
Did you know this
tag
was on that
boxes.
suggestion box?
Yeah.
Because if not, I'd love to give this to my wife for her anniversary. Just kidding.
Rich, we also got some tape recording.
We have a lot of cuts, but we're not going to take all of them. But we saved some.
This is great. Isn't this fun?
It is.
This is like archaeology. This is
I'm
like
having a good
a
time.
dig.
Roland
Well,
Patterson.
there's going to be a dig a part of this, too.
There's a picture
The
of Roland,
founder's wife's home
Roland
in Howard
Patterson.
County.
And this was
1796.
this was I think Carl Murphy's file drawer or something like that. We just kind of-
Carl Murphy?
His file drawer.
He was the original.
He
The
was
son of the founder. An insert in
Those in all the papers.
all black newspapers.
Where'd Jerry go?
For me personally, the greatest, I guess, treasures have been some of the letters. And one letter was from Paul Robeson to Carl Murphy, and another letter was from Haile Selassie. And you know, so we actually see their, you know, their signature, and I haven't seen this, but I understand that there's an original manuscript in some of these boxes of Langston Hughes. So that is to be, you know, as we unbox everything and lay things out, then hopefully that will turn up too. But you know, it is supposed to be somewhere in the files.
It's overwhelming. It's going to allow us to have probably the most complete history of the Afro-American experience since the 1890s in one place for researchers to go through. And when it gets computerized, you'll probably have access to it in your own home. And that's really a lot of fun to think about.
Human history. We live it every day. But centuries from now, how will people know who we were, how we lived, what we thought? From the archives we leave behind, our literature, newspapers, our letters, songs, our essays, here in our libraries, America's storehouses of culture, all the artifacts of our daily lives lie waiting to be discovered by future generations. Everything. That is, except for 5 million documents, letters, and photographs, which reflect the core of the black experience in America over the past 100 years. Precious documents of American life, which have lain neglected and forgotten for decades. But where have they been all this time? Here, in downtown Baltimore, buried in the catacombs of the offices of the Afro American, one of the nation's oldest black newspapers. Buried, that is, until their accidental discovery during a routine house cleaning attracted the attention of scholars from across the country. We need to make this national treasure a national resource. And to do that, we need your help. The dream for the Afro American Newspaper's Archives and Research Center began in 1986 in the old building where the staff of the Afro American has covered the news of black America for nearly a century. One day, quite by accident, a staff member glanced into a dumpster full of discarded papers and noticed something that looked like it might be important. It was. It was the letters, memoirs, and personal papers of John H. Murphy, the paper's original publisher and a towering figure in black American life at the turn of the century. But that was just the beginning. A room-by-room search of the building unearthed a treasure house of history, stacked in piles, stuffed into mildewing boxes, and jammed into rusting file cabinets were literally millions of priceless artifacts documenting the past 100 years of the lives of black Americans. How priceless? Let's take a look. At least one personal letter discussing the issues of the day from every president of the United States since William Howard Taft, from the World War I era to the era of modern civil rights. An original, unpublished manuscript, complete with hand-scribbled notes of Langston Hughes' novel, The Big C, submitted to the Afro American Newspaper as a serial before Hughes went on to become an international literary giant. More than 1 million photographs, many never published, dramatizing black life in pictures. The Scottsboro Boys, after 6 years in jail and one of America's most controversial, inflammatory trials. W.E.B. Du Bois, Mary McLeod Bethune, and NAACP co-founder Walter White, a meeting of 3 of the greatest minds in African American history. Some 700 cartoons spanning 3 decades of political commentary by Afro-American cartoonist Thomas Stockett, whose admirers included the late President John F. Kennedy. Even tape recordings of events that rocked our nation's history. such as the 1968 riots that followed the assassination of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
A strict curfew is now in effect in the city and in Baltimore County. In the city, no one except doctors, nurses, persons working for essential utilities, and reporters will be allowed on the streets. Others face immediate arrest by the Army. Repeating, a strict curfew is now...
But who is to say what is historically valuable? Who is to say that these materials make up a collection that must be preserved? Some of the world's leading historians.
While gathering data for my recent publication, I found the Afro American newspapers to be extremely valuable. The data that I gathered enabled me to provide for the African American female experience not only a national perspective, but an international one as well. I am positive that when the Afro American archives become available, students, teachers, and scholars will be able to add additional breadth and depth to their study of the United States history.
Well, documents capture history. One of the functions of an archivist is to describe, to arrange, and to appraise records. But most importantly is to preserve those records for history's sake. If records are not preserved, history is lost. The archives of the Afro American newspaper is in a deteriorating state. If they're not preserved, then that history will be lost to the public.
So what we have here is an archival gold mine, now sitting in temporary storage at Bowie State University in Maryland. We have scholars nationwide phoning and writing in for access to this material and being turned away because there is no staff and no money to accommodate their requests. What then is to be done? We need to make this precious resource available to the scholars, students, teachers, writers, and others whom we depend upon to write America's history. And we have a 3-year, 4-step plan to make it happen. Step 1 is to painstakingly sort, examine, and restore all of these invaluable documents, photos, and graphics, and then to store them as microfilm negatives or computer data. Step 2, to load all of these archives into a digital mainframe computer so any scholar anywhere in the world can instantly call up any item. Step 3, to create a permanent home for the archives, a building to be constructed on the campus of historic Morgan State University in Baltimore that would serve as a national showcase for the collection. And step 4, perhaps the most important, is the Forever Fund, a permanent endowment to support the staff and the day-to-day needs of this Black American Archival Research Center. No other collection like this exists anywhere, because no other newspaper has provided as long a continuous chronicling of the Black American experience as has the Afro American. With your generous support, within 3 years we can make it the national institution it deserves to be. We ask you to join us in literally making history, because while it will earn you our thanks today, it will earn you a nation's thanks tomorrow. Presentation made possible through the generous support of Maryland National Bank.